Hi, guys. Okay, let me wait. Let's wait about, how long do you think we should wait before we get started? 2 minutes?
You are the professional here. I am following your lead. I don't
Stop it.
know. You let me know. I don't know. I don't know what the norm is, like when people normally show up for these things. So
Well, this is my first interview, and it is a pleasure to do this.
Special.
Yes, it is my first one, so just bear with me. But I'm gonna.
I love your eye makeup.
Thank you.
I just bought these. I have no idea what to do with them. These little palettes. So I'm going to be watching some tutorials to figure out my life. But yeah, I like your eye makeup.
This is currently this is a Target palette, actually.
Oh, okay. The pigmentation is like really, really strong. Like that's what I noticed. So
yeah, I was really surprised. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Excuse me.
You're fine. You're fine.
All right.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started because we are on today.
Yes.
Okay. So first, Stephanie, first of all, I want to apologize. And I feel like I owe you that because I spent all day yesterday watching your content, getting familiar with your personality, the woman you are, your background, your experiences. And so when you take one video, we don't get the full picture. Like we don't get to see you for who you really are. We only get one dimension. We only get one vantage point. So in that video, first of all, when I reacted to it, I'm thinking I'm giving advice to a 20-something-year-old. I'm over it. And then and the reason is because I'm like, okay, she looks young, like, you know, and I'm like, is she putting this out here for advice? But you weren't. You know, your storytelling is like the truth that really hurts. And it leaves empaths like me like, okay, like, does she, what is she, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what the hell? Like, well, does she want our help? Like, does she need our help? It's like, where do we stand? And so on my channel, we focus on, you know, leveling up, glowing up and things like that. And so that was our mentality when we watched the video. So it wasn't to come at you shady or to belittle you. And the reason why I took down the video originally was because we felt like it was morally wrong, you know, to speak on your experience, to speak on your trauma, and you not be here to really speak for yourself and defend yourself when it came to some of the opposing rebuttals that we may have had during that conversation. So I removed that video out of respect for you, your followers who were offended. And I do truly apologize genuinely for even continuing the live, because I would say about a fourth way through, something told me to stop, but I didn't. I went against my better judgment, and I really do apologize for that. So,
I got like chills. That's like the nicest thing anybody has ever said to me. Well, you know, I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm new to this. Mm-hmm. And I think what you said is so on point, is that people did see the one thing, and I was, and like I've been trying to catch up, because what happened is somebody DM'd me who found that and was like, hey, turn your comments on. And I said, oh no. She said, yeah, I think you should allow it to be a conversation. And that was maybe 3 weeks ago. And then a couple days later, it started picking up a lot of views. So I've just been trying to I'm like, what are people looking, you know? So it was just one moment in time. I was commenting on one thing, not like you said so much as to be like, oh, I need advice, but just to say, hey, this does happen. Here's how I deal with it. It doesn't fix it, but this is how I deal with it. And I want you to know you're not crazy if this is something that's happening in your life. So when people say, oh, you don't, my first reaction is, oh, they've never seen anything else. They haven't watched anything else I talk about. They don't know that I'm a senior citizen. You know, they have no idea my actual background. And then I think with my age, because I've mentioned, I talk about some tough stuff that women my age may have gone through and dealt with that you don't really see on YouTube.
No.
And so, because in general, you know, for us, our YouTube time probably was like 5-10 years ago. And now, but you do see it a lot on TikTok. You see a lot of people having these conversations. And I was like, well, nobody's having them here and the website's still up. So I'll put it out there in case someone else is looking for this kind of conversation. So first of all, I want to say thank you. I didn't even know the live had happened. But someone did tell me, oh, what's going on? I was like, oh, okay. And then you reached out so soon after. I was like, oh, did it not go well? What? And then I started sort of picking up what was going on. And I was like, oh, all right, I see.
It was definitely a creator's mistake, you know, if I'm being completely honest. So I didn't feel comfortable leaving that up. And then after watching your I'm not having kids video, it really brought a lot of things to perspective. So if there's anyone on here that hasn't watched any of her other content and you're just taking this one video, I really advise that you spend time on her channel and really go through a lot of her videos that discusses different topics as to why she has the mindset that she has. And I think you guys will see her differently. So yeah, I just wanted to apologize because my intention was to never, you know, bring you down or anything like that. It was just, the public didn't know how to take a video like that. It was so raw. It was so real.
I'm still trying to figure, I haven't gone, like, it is a very raw thing to the point where, I had a girl a writer reach out, and she works for EXO, Nicole, and she was like, oh, can I feature this as an article? And I was just like, what is the big deal? Like, okay. So she wrote an article about it and she transcribed it. And by the end of me reading my words, I was in tears. And I was like, oh, I see. All right.
I was just like, it's like, I don't know what to do. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I think it touched a lot of people.
It stopped this week, but it still happens. I was getting it was a little too much. You mentioned being an empath, you don't kind of know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I go through cycles myself where I'm like releasing and then where I'm taking on and I'm listening. And that was a part of my life where I was releasing. Mm-hmm. So the last 2 weeks I've been getting like literal, I call them letters, they're emails from people all over the world that are just, they start at birth. Some are from India, and they're like, this happened to me when I was 6. And then when I was 8, this happened. And then my mom said this, and now we're doing that. And I'm reading through and I'm trying to like keep up and respond. But yeah, a lot of people were like, hey, I wanted to do this, or I wanted to say this to somebody, but I just sent your video instead. Thank you. One guy said, thank you for putting language to my emotions. I didn't have the language for what I was feeling. So thank you for giving me that. And I was like, you're welcome, you know, but that's a lot, but you're welcome. Yeah. So yeah, I understand. It's like I was telling somebody, I said, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I was a teacher, was working in LA. I've worked wherever. And one thing I know is a lot of times you put the content out there for whomever you're talking to, and not everybody gets the main idea at first because they don't have, what do we used to call it? They don't have supporting knowledge. They don't have the supporting knowledge. Right. So they're like, oh, well, this is it. And you're trying to tell, no, that's not, but you got to go back and you got to look. And I was just like, all I can do is wait until somebody does that, because if they don't, they're going to come to the wrong assumption. And I've tried to do that in follow-up videos. I've tried to be like, hey, this is something.
What's the last one? I did.
I've tried to say, hey, I wasn't, you got to understand this was coming from this viewpoint, but I do recognize that life is big, like we're going to talk about. I'm not a hermit living underneath a rock that's just, that's not me. Right. But in that moment, I was allowing myself to be vulnerable and to acknowledge something that's hurtful to me. But I know that's not the end. That's not the whole story. If I thought it was the whole story, would I have the audacity to be like, let me get a camera and some lights and start a channel? If I thought I was just, worthless because someone didn't buy me a drink at a bar. Like if I thought that was the whole of my worth, why would I go further? Right. But again, like you said. So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So do you want to give a little bit of a background story behind why you started your channel and your why? Like, why did you decide to create the content that you're creating? Because like I said, it's the raw truth that it hurts. Like that's the only way that I can explain. It hurts, but it's like, it's what you're going through. You know, it's what a lot of women are going through.
I didn't want any more people to, I've been reading a lot of stories and listening and just watching a lot of things. And just even before we had this talk, I follow Jada Pinkett Smith on Instagram. And so I saw that a new Red Table Talk is coming out about alcoholism and addiction and her issues with that, and how women are the fastest rising, and it's because, different things are getting glamorized, wine Thursdays and being a wine mom and all this other stuff. And how really the pandemic brought out a lot of addiction, and people, it comes from, and I'm not trying to just boil everybody's thing down to the same reason, but a lot of times you hear it comes from not being able to deal with big emotions. And so I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, girl, and it really hit me just coming into this next year of my life. I was like, do you understand? Like, I went through this and I'm still here. I went through this and I'm still here. I did this and I'm still here. I'm not medicated. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. Right. But I'm getting up every day. I'm making jokes. I'm exercising. How can I? And I said, I could help someone. Yeah, I could help someone.
You haven't given up.
No. And even if it's just enough to say, oh, that person has a story like mine. Okay. Whoo. I am not the only one.
Right.
But also, I like to show like a thought process. I like to say, okay, well, this is how I went from here. That's why I made that video about my journey with wanting to be a mother, because it becomes a very sad conversation for some women at a certain point in time. And this is how I keep from not falling apart, not just drinking 2 or 3 bottles of wine a night, not just wanting to sleep through the whole day. Like, this is what I'm doing. And also my why was, I had seen people on YouTube for many years, and I was like, what are they doing here? And are they making money with this? What is this? And so I wanted to try something else. I think coming out of 2020, I'm giving myself, just at this point in my life, period, even without a pandemic, but I do think living through that, you're just reminded that life is very short. And it's so funny, because when I was teaching, the kids would tell me, well, you could vlog. You should have like these are babies, like 5th graders. Why don't you, and they would try and find me online, and like they found me on TikTok, they found, whatever. But my point was, life is short. What else is out there? I have production background. I watch videos. I learn so much. And when I'm hurting, I like to, reach out and see, well, is anybody else going through something like me? And when I became a woman of a certain age, I didn't see content that mirrored my life. All you see is mommy bloggers or this or that. And it's like, a great percentage of us still aren't, we may, but we still aren't married, or we still don't have kids. What are our minds like? What are our psyches like? Where's that content? And I didn't see it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make something.
I definitely feel like you're creating your own lane. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have conversations that I haven't seen yet. That's where the idea for the video came from too, is that on YouTube, when I looked, I saw a lot of people talking about it very abstractly, like, well, here's what's happening on YouTube, on TikTok. Here's what it looks like on Instagram. And it's like, well, what does it look like in your life? Like, have you ever actually gone through that? And the stories that I've gotten, the emails, the DMs, where people are telling me, just because they weren't valued as being something that was beautiful to look at, they were treated XYZ. I feel like if Celie from The Color Purple had seen my video, she would be like, thank you, because that's really what it reminded. Because I thought when people were saying, oh, this isn't real, it doesn't happen, I was like, they made a whole movie off of someone being just so ugly that she shouldn't be valued as a person. She wasn't the valuable choice for a wife. I mean, literally one of the famous lines is, you show is ugly. That's one of the famous lines from that movie. But we don't want to be honest about that. So I was like, well, I'll be honest about it and see if it helps anybody to know they're not alone. So I hope that answers the question.
Well, I heard in one of your videos, and you highlighted this, and I could agree with this 1,000%. You called out fake positive or body positive how do you feel about that? Because I noticed that was something that you kind of highlighted, and
I was shouting at one because at the beginning when I was noticing people were watching it, and I was like, I gotta respond to these comments. I made one video and I watched it at the end, and I was like, oh girl, you sound crazy. But I was talking about toxic positivity, right, and how we are afraid to and I actually like unfollowed some things and started following some new things. I really feel like 2020 was a transformative year for a lot of people because I follow a lot of therapy pages on Instagram, but they're licensed clinical therapists and they create their own content. And they really focus on saying, like instead of saying live, laugh, love, say ... Instead of saying no bad vibes, say ... And so, so I noticed, I figured people would have an issue with the content that I make because it's not, it's not, we're not live, laugh, loving. We're trying to like really chew the tough, gristly meat. Like, let's really like break this down. And so that's what I was talking about. I get bored with that because it doesn't allow for disappointment. It's no disappointment here. No, please. No. People are disappointed though. And so instead of being honest, they're drinking more. They're, shoving it down. They can't sleep. They're anxious. I did get a message from someone saying, all I do is drink and smoke to keep from thinking about these things. Mm-hmm. Thank you for saying this. And now I can just focus on these steps that you've given me. So that to me, I'm like, okay, that's anti whatever for a reason. Right. Yeah. So.
Okay. So let's get into the questions because my followers had questions while we were watching the live. And I decided to ask them again because, I deleted the live and we kind of lost, some talking points. So the first one that I have here is, well, what inspired you to create the video? Like, I don't have pretty girl privilege and it sucks.
Okay, so
in one sentence.
I was mad. and the second one is too much TikTok. I was mad. People were talking about it. And I'm just adding on to this one sentence. Well, the sentence is I was mad. Lots of, and then also I just spent 4 years in LA where where, it's a, it's already like a tough kind of thing when you're not in your well-defined lane. I think that, and I think you have another question that mirrors that answer that I want to give. But when you're sort of just kind of hanging out and seeing like what can I catch? Who's going to notice me? Mm-hmm. You really see how that could benefit you if you had some of it, Right. So, and then, I had just turned another age. I had finished dealing with, a dusty man, but a guy that I felt was, wow, he's indicative of, and I met him in LA and I was just like, man, he's indicative of who I normally, and it's not anyway, I was mad. I'd had some interesting social experiences. I had spent way too much time learning how to glue down a wig and go out and feel cute and been ignored on my birthday. I was feeling angry and mad. And I was like, no one's talking about this the way I want to. I'm going to rage. And so I made that video. That's really what inspired it. Okay. And I also want to say this. I do have a lot of friends who are very live, laugh, love. No. I don't want to hear that. No, thank you. No. And it's just like, okay, so we can talk about, so I didn't have anyone to talk to. And so I said, I'm going to just lay out my thought process for when I get in one of these moods on the internet. Right. So that's what that was about. And it's probably not the smartest thing. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Okay. So the next one that I have is, how do you feel colorism affects whether or not you have pretty girl privilege? Do you feel brown skin and dark skinned women can have pretty girl privilege? Do you believe the privilege is anti-Black?
Okay, so I actually, me see, I saw this and I made some notes. So I think that colorism affects pretty girl privilege. And it affects it a lot, especially in the dark community, in the Black community. I really do think that it does. However, I want to be clear about this. I also know that if you're a beautiful woman of any shade, and dark skin, light skin, whatever, this is still something that can happen to you. I mentioned in other videos that when I was in LA and I would go out, I actually had a friend who's very light skinned. She is not biracial, but both of her parents are just very light skinned Black. She curly, maybe like 3B hair. We would go out, and the friend that would get hit on was another girl. She was Nigerian, very tall, maybe like 2 shades darker than me, beautiful smile, very thin, larger chest. She got hit on all the time. And so I really think that even more so than just your skin color, where you are, who's looking at you, who's defining what's beautiful in that situation. But I really think, yes, when it comes to specifically in the Black community and a lot of other communities that are minority communities, and I want to say post-colonial communities, so communities that have a history of white influence, you know what I mean? Like white people coming in and saying, hey, this group is better because they look like us, or, whether saying it overtly or saying it, just through the subtext of how they treat various people. I think that your skin tone can affect whether or not you enjoy that privilege. And then you said, is it anti-Black?
Would you consider it anti-Black?
Huh?
Would you consider it anti-Black?
I think if the people defining the privilege are wanting features that most Black women seem to have. Does that make sense? Or they're discounting that. So let's say I'm in a place and I'm in a place where like I'm in the Deep South, and that same girl I just described, Deep South, brown paper bag, test South, she's not going to, it's going to be very anti-Black. And no, don't bring her in here.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be anti-Black. You can be somewhere else and we like that. I had a white man tell me once, the darker you are to us, and he was talking about him and his friends, the more attractive we think you are. And then he said, I think Kelly Rowland is more attractive than Beyonce. And I was like, I've never heard this. I've never heard this way of thinking. Not that she's not, but whatever. I'm not comparing the two, but I'm just saying that it really depends on who is assigning the privilege. So I can't say that overall pretty privilege is anti-Black. I can't say that. It can be, but not always.
Do you feel like pretty girl privilege, for you to be a part of that, featureism is what really matters, not necessarily skin shade?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because all across, in fact, I told you I spend too much time on TikTok. In fact, right now there's a trend where people are showing off their noses, and it's usually people of Persian, Indian. I don't want to say Indian, but like Middle Eastern people are showing off the shape of their noses. And there's one trend there's one video that went kind of viral on the app where this girl is like, when you're a brown girl, but you're lucky enough not to get that nose. And she's, doing, her little things. And it stitches over to this Black man, and he's like me. He's got a nose like mine, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't imagine being in brown skin and having one of those noses. I can't imagine." So absolutely, I think even if you're a darker skin tone, but you still have small lips, you have a tiny little nose, you have features that are still imbued with pride because of colonialism. You can still benefit from this privilege. So I absolutely
noticed that on Instagram. I know
it's on TikTok. It's on TikTok.
Well, I follow a lot of brown skin and dark skin women that are like Instagram models and things like that. And a lot of them that have like the really massive, big followers are the ones that do still have that, those considered to be those European features. And like the slimmer nose, the chiseled face, the high cheekbones, but they are dark-skinned women, they're brown-skinned women, but they seem to have that privilege based off of their following, their fans, their endorsements, their sponsorships, their followers. So, and the fact that they basically just travel and they don't work really other than, posting for Instagram and stuff like that. So it's like I've seen it, but I really feel like pretty girl privilege is definitely impacted more by featureism, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people were responding to my video, and they were saying, I had a conversation with one person, and they were like, "Man, I wrote you off initially because I was like, oh, this is just another dark skinned girl complaining." And I thought about that, and I was like, I didn't even think about it from that angle at first because, like I said, I was just spending way too much time on the internet, and I was looking at it from, there were girls who were complaining because they didn't have body privilege, and they were just kind of putting it underneath that umbrella. They're bigger, so whatever. There were girls who were saying, I do have, I feel like I'm too dark. There were girls who were saying, there were white women who were saying they did not have it. So I was like, this is a multi-ethnic across all races issue. But because it was coming out of me and I am a darker skinned woman, a lot of people were like, oh, this is a dark skinned Black woman. We've heard this all before. But I think you're right. Cause I have a friend who is a dark skinned Black woman. She's darker than me. Not the friend I was talking about, another friend. Every time we go out, she gonna get enough. Somebody's going, hey, miss, every time. She can go anywhere. She's very thin. She has a tiny nose. She tells me that one person once said, oh, my surgeon is about to give me a nose like yours. I'm gonna go in. Let me see it again. Yeah, that's exactly what. Hey, come here. She got my nose. Like, she's told me that people have these conversations with her. She's got small lips, just her face she has the features that, are not seen as being really African features. And every time we go somewhere, even though she is darker skinned, she's the one that is picked up on and hit on by men of all races. So when people were saying, oh, it's just a dark skinned Black woman, I was like, no, hey man, I have a lot of friends who are dark skinned and they do very well, but they do benefit from something else, from featureism. Some of them might have this is my trusty dusty vlogging wig, but some of them, this is their actual hair, they have whatever. But yeah, I think you can have any skin color, but if you do have those features that people are more attracted or that they allow more often, that are more further away from African features, you will have that privilege. So yeah.
Okay. So the next question, do you think you can counteract pretty privilege by going where you are celebrated and not tolerated? How do you feel about women who don't have pretty girl privilege? Have you managed to get in a happy, loving relationship or marriage?
So to answer your first question, I absolutely think you can. The problem with that, though, because again, people have been messaging me lots of things, and they've been telling me, well, your problem is you don't live here, you don't live here, you don't live here. And the issue is that I had a friend once where a guy actually told her, wow, wherever you go, any dude is going to want you. So it's like this idea where I can go where I'm celebrated and not tolerated, but why do I have to be a nomad? Why do I have to go? Why am I so finite? How come I'm only able to enjoy being accepted a lot of people were like, you need to come to the East Coast. I have a nervous breakdown if the weather is under 50 degrees. I can't handle it, so I think about that and I'm like, yeah, I bet you are right. But where am I going to work? Wait, so do I just move there just to enjoy it? That's the part of having a privilege, is that, anywhere you go,
right?
Huh?
You don't have to
go on this journey. It doesn't have to be so specific. Well, I'm really popular. And like for me, for example, I know if I go to a certain bar in Austin, that's right, I said Austin. If I go to a certain bar in Austin, I do well there. Why does it have to be one bar though?
Right.
Why can't I be, like my one friend who, it doesn't matter where we go, she walks in the door and people are like, yup. And that's the thing. So you can definitely go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. But I think what people forget is that the issue here is that for some people, though, those choices are more finite than they are for others.
Right.
And your second part of your question was,
it says, how do you feel about women who don't have pretty girl privilege and have managed to get in loving and happy relationships / marriages?
Okay, so this question is a little loaded for me because I believe, first of all, I'm a big believer in like fate and destiny. Okay. And I want to go ahead and say also that, again, when I made that video, I was coming off of just I had been dealing with a situation, And then I was mad. And so I was like, I'm going to talk about this. But I 100% believe that there's somebody out there who looks just like me and is like, I'm on baby number 4 and I'm married to the owner of Nathan's Hot Dogs. I don't know. But I 100% think that whomever you're going to end up with, whatever love is meant to find you in your life, whatever relationship you're meant to have, you're going to still have it no matter what you look like. And I also think that there's so many more things that go into when we talk about mates. I was sort of in my video, I was listing like superficial interactions that would have gone better for me if more people across the board found me attractive. That's why I focused on, you know.
But Stephanie, I don't feel like you're giving yourself enough credit, because when I watched some of your other content, I also felt like you're a woman that's not settling. And I think the missing key for a lot of people, like that's why I said they need to go to your YouTube channel and watch more of your content. You're a woman that's not settling. And for that, I really admire, because, you know, you have so many women that they get desperate and they feel like, oh, I'm not going to feel complete. My life is not going to be fulfilled. And so they run out and they get with a man that is just not good, you know, not healthy enough to raise a family and take on that whole lifestyle. So I feel like it's admirable for you to look at the reality of things, and with your experiences coming to the understanding that choosing myself is enough. Like, that's what I'm getting from your content. Like, choosing myself is enough, and not settling is enough as well. Like, putting myself first.
No, I've gotten, and I was going to make a video about this as well, but I've gotten a lot of messages where people have been like, hey, let me set you up with ... Oh, I have a guy. And I think what you just said is exactly where I'm at right now. I recognize that relationships aren't always the key unless it is something that does specific things for you, unless it does fortify your life, unless it does really build you up. And that kind of great love finds some people in this lifetime. It doesn't find some people in this lifetime. But I'm at the point in my life now, and I think people miss that from my content, which is really still in its infancy. Like, let's be, it's not polished yet. But I'm at the point in my life now where I'm like, if it's not that Tabitha and Chance love, like if it's not that, if I'm not like, oh, God sent this to me because he wanted to make a point. Okay, go ahead. Then I don't need to be involved. I'm not interested in, you know, fighting with anybody. I'm not interested in tug of war. I'm not interested in debating about this and that. Like, if we are really not divinely brought together, then that's okay. So as far as like women who manage to get, that's for them. Like, what's for you is for you. This is all superficial, and you can get upset about superficial things. Like when I stub my toe, I get upset, but my body didn't shatter. Like, I'm still here. I'm upset in that moment. I'm mad in that moment. I'm mad that happened.
Right.
But it's not the totality of my life or the totality of possibilities in my life. I know a lot of women. I've been in their weddings. I hope they don't watch this. But I've been in their weddings, and I would not say to them, girl, you're ready to start your Instagram model career. Yeah, I would not say that. They do not need to do that. But I've been in their weddings, and they're happy, and they're very loved. So while I do think, you know, having that privilege affects you superficially, as far as like that love that's like soul defining and like life fortifying, that's your path, your destiny. Like, you're going to find that, and it's going to fulfill you if it's meant to. And for some of us, I have an aunt who's 80 years old and she never got married. And she's I think it's hard for us to understand because we have been so programmed to relationships. You know, I think about somebody like Tracy Ellis Ross, and I'm like, she says all the time,
oh my God,
I would love to do this. Absolutely. But what am I supposed to do? Sit around and wait for it? Shut up. I've got too much to do. Like, I have that quote. It was my screensaver for a while. So yeah, I definitely think it's possible. It's possible for anyone. Yeah. So I don't have anything to say about it. I'm like, of course they did. Because that's a possibility of just like being alive, that you find great love no matter what you look like. Of course they found it. That's kind of how I feel.
Okay. So my next question is, what advice would you give women who feel they will never have pretty girl privilege?
That When I first saw that down, I was like, well, the first thing I would say is get over it. Because that's my mom in me. And I have two very different sides. My mom is like, are we still talking about this? And my dad is my parents are switched. Anyway, I would say that, like, give yourself time to realize that it has hurt you. Mm-hmm. That's been like a lot of the messages that I get are from women who are like, okay, I didn't realize that I was shoving that down. Yeah, that bothers me. But then look at your life in a way at how else do you get the things that you want that have nothing to do with how you look? Like I spoke about in my video that I posted yesterday. I said, I've been in a lot of situations where people have discounted me for other things. I look too young. My voice is, too light. So they're like, wait, what? Who are you? You're supposed to be the supervisor of what? But you sound like a small child, it's my first year. It's too soon, but I'm enough to be here. You know what I mean? So what are you talking about? I'm still going to get what's for me. So as far as not feeling like you'll have pretty privilege, I also want to say you have to be very careful with your emotions and like very aware of them. So if you're in a situation where someone is making you feel bad because they are valuing you completely superficially, you have the license to remove yourself. I've been in situations where a guy has shown up and he's been very clear about showing attention to one person, or maybe he and his friends show up and they want one person and they want the other, and I'm not on their radar. I don't have to sit there. I don't have to indulge in that. I can go, and I want to just to go back to what you said about being celebrated, not celebrated, not tolerated. That doesn't just include how people view you visually. It can also include just people who enjoy your company. So while you may be in one group with people who are only superficially valuing everyone, we're only paying for these girls to get into VIP, I can leave and go hang out with people who just, oh yeah, you're here. All right, because people know I love karaoke. Let's get out the karaoke machine. Oh, she's here. Oh, is Steph coming? So I feel like those events and those situations, they build you up in a different way. Because I know, like, I went out that night and I came back and I was like, But then a couple days later, I went to a brunch and we were laughing. We were far away from the male gaze, far away from any of those things that might make me think about that. Just enjoying company and enjoying conversation. So I feel like I would say definitely acknowledge if it's something that bothers you, but also really, really focus your life experiences on things that lift you up. Because that can make such a big difference in how you view yourself and how you present yourself to the world. And I talked about it in my video last night. I didn't list all the things that have happened to me in my life that people have said to me that have been out of pocket, because I think a lot of times it's not important. But a lot of times people would never even guess that I struggled with self-confidence. A lot of times people are like, oh, she's so loud. Oh, that's a lot of confidence. Oh, you've got a lot of, because I've been in a lot of situations where I've been lifted up, where I've been, people have really, really supported me. So, I acknowledge that it's there. If it makes you sad, absolutely separate yourself from situations where people are not sensitive to how you're being treated. If that's how people are being, valued in your circle. If you're not being treated that way, leave. And that's why I said I have very good friends. I have friends who note, oh, wait, what's he doing?
Right.
Oh, no, we're going. All right. You're not going to treat my friend like this because you want something from me, but you're doing it.
Oh my gosh.
And if you're with people that are doing that to you, they're not your friend.
Nope.
So you don't have to hang out with them, because there are people out there who would rather have their feet run over by like a fleet of cars than watch you feel ignored or neglected. And I've been very blessed in my life that my friends have been like, you did what? No, get out of my way, sir. We're not speaking to you. Come on, girl, we're going. Hey, I got it. He didn't get it. I got it. I got the next round. You know what I mean? So definitely surround yourself with things that lift you up if you feel like that's something you miss out on.
And I've been in situations like that on the opposing end where I've had to just act rude to a guy for being disrespectful. I'll never forget my best friend. She lives in LA. She's talked about her struggles with dating as well. She's a brown-skinned woman as well. And she struggles with it. So there are moments where we're out and men will either try to talk to her to get closer to me. I hate that. Another thing that I hate is when they just ignore her completely as if she's not standing there. I feel like that's very rude. And just dismissing her if we're like engaging in conversation and they just step right in and start talking, I immediately remove myself from men like that because it's just rude. You know, it's not, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth and it's just a horrible introduction. So yeah, like if you have friends that aren't standing up for you, they're not really your friends in spaces like that, in moments like that. They should definitely, you know, have your back in situations. You should never feel left out. You know, you should always feel included and valued and not disrespected in that way. I agree with that. So the next question here, do you think that there was negative feedback because women who have never experienced pretty privilege did not want to address it? Or do you think your video confirmed Black women as the least desirable?
So the first thing is that Black women are not the least desirable. That is a myth. That is, and again, I want to say, I was very ignorant and not thinking about, and sometimes I do this. I just present myself as my image of myself, and I forget that other people are also projecting onto me. So I was very ignorant not to think that if I'm a Black woman and I'm saying this, it carries a different weight than if I was another woman and I was saying this. So me, and because a lot of people can't separate, oh, this Black woman is saying this,
right?
That's her saying it, and it doesn't apply to ... A lot of people can't separate that, especially Black people. We tend to do that. We tend to say, hey, if you make us look bad, you've made us all look bad. Take it down. You know, we don't like that. And I think Black women especially are very sensitive to it because we do have a certain unprotected status in the world as a whole. It's just true. You know, Malcolm X had it right. The Black woman is the most unprotected, you know, person in society. However, I do think that we are getting better at acknowledging that that might be true and people might look down on us, but that even that attitude is sort of it's a very, very warped projection of the actual value that we do bring to a society. So that being said, like that negativity exists, right. But we know better. We know from how we're, you know, accepted in various places. We know how some of us are celebrated in various places. We know that negativity is not all there is to it. So long story short, I think that some people received it badly because they understand the cost of a Black woman saying, hey, this negativity actually hurt me, because as Black women, we're not allowed to talk that. We can't let them know. We have to keep we have to keep up that wall. We can't let them know. Why did you do that? You should not. I got a lot of messages from people saying, girl, you're a strong, beautiful Black woman. Who told you you're not strong? Hey, listen, yes, but also this. Right. And, you know, so I think that that's why I got negative feedback. We don't like to do that, especially not to ourselves. It's like people do that enough. But like for me, I was talking about it because I don't believe in it at all. I don't believe in the negativity. I don't believe Black women are least desirable. Listen, I'm not going to say that on this. I don't know what your channel is rated, but I know this, okay? It's like you said, it for me very much so when it comes to my dating life and my status now is very much self-preservation, because I know I've been through some riffraff and I'm like, we're not doing that no more. Right. But I also know that the whole reason I went through some riffraff is because there are people out there who do find this desirable. They're not the greatest, but they're out there. So when I was talking, I didn't at all think, oh, I'm just adding to Black women being ugly. No. I'm telling this story. I don't believe Black women are the most desirable. I mean, most undesirable. Anybody who thinks that is ridiculous to me. Like, I don't even compute that. And I think people shouldn't invalidate a story just because it makes them uncomfortable because they feel it might be adding to a negative rhetoric that exists. That's not even true. Like, right. It's like, you know, so if you were offended by it, it's like, well, what are you ascribing to? Do you find Black women undesirable? Like, so is that why you have a problem with someone being honest about ... Are you so scared to be honest about your experience as a Black woman because you think it might make people feel like they can pile on you? Is that something? Me, it doesn't bother me. I'm like, I'm a person first. I am a person, right. And I'm allowed to have every feeling. I'm allowed to have every feeling. So yeah, I think there's negative feedback because we're not allowed as Black women to be vulnerable.
You're taught to suppress. And I think the women that were offended, the Black women that were offended, their suppressed emotion that they don't deal with was exposed, and you exposed it. And I think that was something that was hard for them to deal with, especially when they're not being advised by like a counselor on how to deal with that emotion, because I felt like you brought that emotion to the forefront, which a lot of people, particularly among us Black women, we bury because we're taught to instead of dealing with it. And I think you really opened that door for a lot of people. So I agree.
And I also think that that's a very, I think, you know, we have to look at like generationally, because that's a very like millennial thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but everyone knows how old I am. The generation. Oh, that's you. I thought you were saying I was 29. I was like, oh, no, I'm not. But anyway, the generation behind us, the Gen Z, they're very open. They're not suppressing anything. And like I said, I made that video. I forgot where it was because I had been spending way too much time on the internet. I was like, this is what we're all talking about, right? But I think even logging into YouTube is a very millennial thing. I don't even think that this is a platform that they use anymore. They're still over there. So I think had I made like a series of videos on TikTok, it would have gone over totally differently. I would have had my little blue check mark. I would have been, woohoo, everybody would have been like, yes, this girl. Actually, I was spending some time today on the TikTok account of a girl who this is all she does. Very honest, but she's talking to a different audience. And so I think for our age group, our audience, our generation, we don't talk like this. This is not something you say. This is not how we were raised to speak. And especially the generations above us, because I've had women reach out to me in their 50s and they've been like, thank you. I was never allowed to say this out loud. We weren't allowed to say it. But I've been influenced. I've been influenced by the youths. And so now I'm like, listen, I'm just going to be honest about it, because I know that admitting this doesn't invalidate me as a person. Like, I'm still great, even though I can say that this happens. One does not cancel out the other. And that was not something our generation practiced. It was like, if you say it out loud, it knocks you down. So do not ever say that again. And I don't believe that anymore. I used to, but not anymore.
Generation Z is like the rebels that we always wanted to be, but we couldn't. So
because we were told by our parents to like stay in line and do this and follow these rules, and they're just like, yeah, but the world burned down. So I don't think so. I'm gonna just say what I want to say. Thank you, but that's not what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so the next question that I have is, what do you do in your personal life to uplift and combat yourself and others who may not benefit from privilege?
So I'm a little bit of well, obviously I'm a ham because I can get on the internet and talk and not even care who my audience is. And I do love creating things. So for me, I will feel just a great sense of pride if I've made something and put it out into the world and I like it. But on the other side of that, when like it's a normal time and when it's, you know, like say I'm working, I really do invest a lot of myself in working and just trying to do good work. I like to uplift other people. I'm very, very, I didn't realize this, but people were like, oh God, here she goes again. And I said, what? And they were like, every time we meet, you're always trying to give somebody a new blog. You're always saying somebody should start another business. Like, when's the last time you were talking about this? And I was like, oh yeah. Cause I will find like something someone does well. And I'm like, oh, you know what? We could start a business with this. They never listen to me, but I'm like, you know, you could do this and we could do that. And so I think for me, and that might come from being a teacher too. You're just always sort of looking for something that will uplift this kid so they'll sit down when they're in your room. And also because they have a better experience. But that's something that I do, is just find other things about the person, about life, to focus on and chase those things and focus on those things. It's not every day can't be, oh, I don't like, you know, my face. Every day can't be that, or you'll develop a real issue. And we see that it does happen. People develop eating disorders. People develop, you know, what is it called? They develop body dysmorphia. They develop all different types of issues surrounding focusing too much on one part of themselves, which is their appearance. So for me, I definitely channel that into learning new things, trying new things. And when it comes to people around me, I focus in on, hey, this is what you're good at. Let's talk about that. And so that's what I do with that.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Would you write a book? Has this experience inspired you to write a book? Because I see that for some reason, like not about pretty girl privilege, but like speaking on important topics that matter to you. But like you mentioned earlier, you know, you had a 50-year-old woman reach out to you saying, oh, well, this was something I couldn't say. And you're saying it. Would you even consider writing a book one day for those women to voice?
I'm over here cheating. I'm like, so she said, speaking on topics that matter to you. She said, read a book. I've thought about it. I have one person wrote in my comments when I was still brave enough to read them. She wrote, this is a movie. And I was like, would it be a movie? Could we talk about it? But I feel like it's been done as a movie. But not from a Black woman's perspective, because there was a movie that came out called Dumpling with Jennifer Aniston from Friends. It was about body privilege. And there's Tall Girl, another white woman story. But there hasn't really been a story like this that's been told from a Black woman's perspective. As far as I have absolutely thought about it, and I've been told that. I have one friend who every time I say something, she's like, another chapter for the book. I don't know.
Right. I see that.
She always says that. And so, but I'm just like, okay, what are we writing about? So I have thought about it.
Okay. I don't know. It's just, I see writing a book. I see you writing a book one day. Okay. So the next question I have is, what things do you plan to do to make sure that if neither marriage nor children come to pass, you can nonetheless exercise your maternal instinct to nurture life and your heart's capacity to give and receive love? So basically, how are you still open to receiving love, just maybe not in the conventional way? Would you like, for an example, I'm 29 and I'm also being realistic with the fact that if I never marry, I want to open an orphan for young girls. Like, I want to be an orphan mom, because I feel like love can be received in so many different ways. It doesn't have to come from, the whole princess movie style, which I don't want my daughter watching those kind of movies. I don't want to feed her that and she not be aware of herself first, So I feel like, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, so how do you receive love in other ways if you're not doing it the conventional way? And how do you plan on exercising that?
So I don't want to sound like Michael Jackson here. No offense to him or what he built. I love his music. But I stayed in education, and I wanted to make a video that was about, this is why I'm leaving education. But I didn't, because I know I will probably be back at some point, depending upon how wild I decide to get on my YouTube and this gap year that I'm taking in my life, if anyone would hire me. But I stayed because that was really just some of the greatest love that I would be told this by my coworkers, but my capacity for like truly loving a child that had nothing to do with me was not normal. Like, my kids, I would throw these Christmas parties, and one year this girl was like, we should have a chocolate fountain. So I went out and I searched in December for a chocolate fountain. They're all sold out. You got to buy them in the summer. Right now is the time. But we got a fondue pot, and I brought it in, and like we made chocolate fondue, and they got chocolate covered strawberries. Like, we had a spread. And then when they were leaving to go to 8th grade, I had to be like, oh, you know what, guys, go to lunch, and oh, thank you so much. Last day of school. This is great. I'll be in my room if anyone needs me. But I'm going to eat alone today, so I could cry for like 30 minutes. So I get very attached, and I put a lot into them. And I complained because it was hard. And because you don't get a lot back, especially in the communities that I worked in. But someone said once, they go, you be complaining, but you always are back. You always show up. You're always first. Them little girls, because I coached a cheerleading team. Them little girls don't go without nothing. You have them. So for me, I will always feel very blessed in that I don't have to have given birth to a child to love it. And I also I'm not ever satisfied with like, oh, this one is fine, just one. I think I did okay in the environments that I was in, because I worked in some tough schools, because I really can't extend it to all 38. Everybody in here is important. I know people who they've had very intense discipline issues, and they've asked me, they've been like, well, you don't seem to have, I think each and every one of those kids knew, oh, she's got me. And that's in every place that I work in. So for me, I feel very blessed. And I know that that's not something that everybody has. But I feel very blessed that one of the ways that I give love is that I deeply care for children. I'm deeply invested in their development, and I don't have to be related to them to aggressively. People had to tell me, especially when I'm coaching, that's not your daughter. I get very, what did they say? Wait, did you what? I get very involved. And so, so that's something that I know I will always have. Like, that's not going anywhere. And there's always a child. Like, even if one of my things is that I've sort of made a contract with God. I'm like, you know what? If you ever bless me with any money, like I'm picking up 4. I'm picking up 4 of them. They're going to the Olympics or wherever they want to go to the Olympics. And we're doing, because I have no problem like adopting. I have no, when I made my video about not having children, I was talking about biology, like finding out like, whoa, age is real. Like, wait, what? They've been telling me it's real and it's real? Oh no, I've lost the whole, anyway, so I don't feel blocked off in that sense at all, because I know I will get out there. I will find them. I will figure it out. And also, it's kind of a two-way relationship. Like I walk into stores and kids are just like I went to the bathroom the other day and this little boy was in there with his mom, and I just made a little face at him, and then I left, and then I hear, Jeremiah, come back here. You don't know that woman? Like, he's just following me out of the bathroom. So yeah, I feel like that kind of love is all around you, all around me. Oh, you froze. Okay, there you go. And so, yeah, I know I'm excited about those possibilities because they're always there.
Right.
Then as far as, I mentioned this in other videos, and I don't think people talk about this a lot because it's embarrassing, but I've never really based on, if you watch my unhinged astrology video, based on a lot of different theories of my own, the reality is I've never even really known like a conventional, successful, healthy, consensual romantic relationship. And I'm not alone. There's a lot of people who like it, just those cute little moments and opportunities that just kind of miss you. And you're just like, oh, okay. So as far as that's concerned, I feel like I've changed in the last few years. Like I had all this love that I was like, I can't wait till I meet my man. And now I'm kind of like, oh, well, we can just channel this somewhere else. It's a weird switch. I feel like your energy is always changing and transforming. And so if I don't ever marry, I know I'll be fine because I don't even really, besides my parents' marriage, I don't even know what that looks like for me. So it'd be the same thing as saying, for me, now, if you never go to space, will you be all right? Yeah, I think I'll be fine. That's not for everybody because I know some people they grew up having boyfriends, they had these serious relationships, maybe a broken engagement, this and that. So I know that they're like, wishing on a star. But for me, I don't feel like I've been properly socialized within the context of a relationship to even really know what I was missing. And then things that have been offered to me have been so, that's not cute, that I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything as far as what I've seen. So maternal wise, there's always a baby out there.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one fully. Yeah.
I personally haven't been offered anything that makes me feel like I am missing out.
Okay.
And I know that there are great relationships out there. I witness them every day. I witness them in the lives of my friends. But for me personally, no. And I've heard a lot of horror stories. And I feel very blessed. I want to say that too, that I've been smart enough to get out. And that's all my dad. That's all like looking and being like, would he wouldn't. This ain't what this ain't some stuff he would have did. I'm out. Like just realizing like this is not the life that I didn't grow up to want this. This is not the example that was set for me. No. I'm not missing anything. So
I literally stopped talking to a guy. Tell me if this is shallow. I stopped talking to a guy because I asked him. I have a bar cart that I need to be put together, and I asked him. I said, "Are you a handyman?" He said, "No." I said, "I can't talk to you." I asked him to put a bar cart together. He couldn't.
You know what's interesting about that is that I have done the same thing. But let me tell you why. Because this is kind of the standard that I used for people. If my girlfriend would do it, if my friend would be like, "No, I'm not, but what do you need? I mean, we can't figure this out. We'll figure it out. I'll come over there. We'll do it." If a man will say to me, I had a guy, I asked him, I said, are you, do you think you could help me put something together like this? No. Oh, you don't even have the capacity of servitude to work with me, because I'm the person, I can't build nothing. I have no dexterity. Like, I have no fine motor skills. I am not good with my hands, but I will try, and I will build you a backwards.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be in there trying. It's the no trying for me. It's the lack of compassion. It's the lack of like servitude for me. And I know people put up walls when they're first dating, but okay, then I also need somebody. I had a teacher once who was like, "You did what with the IKEA table?" Because I couldn't figure it out. I had to throw it away. I was like, "Oh, I threw it away." And he goes, "Don't ever do that again. If you need help," he says, "I love doing that kind of stuff. You call me." I said, and now you're not single. You know, I was upset. I said, that's the spirit I need in my life. Right. It fills him with joy. Or somebody that would say, "No, I can't do it, but there's a business out there called Handy. You need me to set you up a Handy? They'll come over and they'll fix it for you." Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're not gonna do that, no. So no, I don't think it's shallow, especially because stuff needs to be built, and Handy is actually expensive. And
when your father sets the tone, you can't help but compare men to your dad. Like, you just can't.
Yeah. Me and my friend talk about that a lot, how daddy issues can go the other way. Like, if your dad just showed out, you just be out here like, well, none of this is acceptable. None of it.
No.
Nope. Because I've seen, like, my dad, he's not good with his hands. We have holes. They have holes and things all over the house that they've had to cover up with his. But you know what? He will get a contractor out here. He will figure it out. My mom said she wants it done. It's getting done. Yeah. So yeah.
I love that. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. This is a good one. How do you think we as women can support each other and band together so tightly that men will know that no other woman will tolerate the shaming and disrespect of another woman by a man?
Oh, okay. I was listening, and then I was like, I caught on late. Yeah. So I think like this conversation right now is a great example. Somebody messaged me today, and they were like, "Oh, he who shall not be named, Kevin Samuels. He did a live yesterday and on Instagram, and he mentioned my video a couple times." And I found that so funny, because it's like, that's all he talks about is rating women. And so a woman who literally says like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm rated well, and this is what happens to me." Like, what do we have to say? What's the conversation? But anyway, I think that this conversation that's happening right now is a great example, because there's apparently other reactions. I've been sent them in my Instagram DMs. People just send me a YouTube link of some guy doing a reaction to my video. Okay. But I think what's great is that, you do have a fairly large platform. You've been at this for a while. You're saying, okay, no, I'm going to let her speak for herself. Right. I'm going to do so this conversation can stand as well. So I think even here, like within the YouTube space, someone who has a more public profile saying, no, we're not just going to shame her. We're not just going to send her links to Kevin Samuels and have him mock her on his live. No, I, as someone who is a woman, who has female friends, who listens to the voice of women, I'm going to let her speak for herself. So I think even this is a great example of that. And also, like you were saying with your friend, how you noticed some of the behavior that I was describing in my video, like men just stepping in front. I've been pushed out of the way before. Like, yeah, I that was a very bad night. But, you saying, "Oh, no, I'm not, that's not cool." So, I think number one, like women validating each other's voices and each other's experience. I had some women message me and say, "Hey, I had been told that I have this. I didn't realize it until your video. And now I have to apologize to my friends." Like, I thought they were making it up. And
I never thought it could be applied in that way.
Yeah, just saying it the other way. And also women messaging me and saying, hey, well, it's not all peaches and cream. People think I'm attractive and I have to deal with ... And so last night when I uploaded that other video, I included that part in there because I absolutely know like objectification is real. People just being treated. I've seen people just be tossed around, someone get trapped at a young age because somebody, people are telling her she's so beautiful. So now she's trapped and she's hooked onto some dude's resources and she doesn't have any sense of self because he's only this one thing. Beyonce wrote Pretty Hurts. Like we get it. We know that it goes in all ways, but I think one thing women can do is like validate the experiences across the board. Right. This is all stuff that can happen to us. And be very protective of a woman's right to speak up and tell her story, especially when I saw that men were doing reactions. I was like, why? Why would you? What do we have to talk about? What do we have to discuss? So I never watched them, but so I think this conversation is a great example. Some of the messages I've been getting are great examples, but I think it's all about validation and just realizing that because I don't experience this, I'm gonna believe her. Like if she says this is happening, this is happening. And if a dude is like, oh no, because one guy, I was looking in a comment section, one guy was like, I don't believe her. What about all the dudes she curved? And some girl responded to him, I watched the video. Did you even watch the video? Watch the video all the way through and then come talk to me about it. And I was like, yes, girl, yes. I okay. Like, and then I moved on. But yeah, I think validation is just really, really important.
I want the women on here that they don't have pretty girl privilege. It's like a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, it comes with benefits, it comes with perks in certain spaces, but like there's a lot of women that deal with sexual abuse. There's a lot of women that deal with being objectified to just surface level. I've even been in situations where I've had a guy that I think is like super interested in me on an intellectual level, and I find out that he's really not. So it's like those experiences hurt too. And it's like you try to invest emotionally into someone and they're just surface level with you. And it's like, okay, but I'm not getting my happiness from this either. So yeah, I agree. Like acknowledging it on all fronts, that, the other side too, the grass, there's shit over there. I'm just saying, like there's some shit.
I watched one of my coworkers be just straight up sexually harassed. Like she was told, it was an older white male coworker and he like was in love with her, and she's a young Black woman, and he would come into her room and talk to her about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. Like he would just be so just inappropriate, and I watched it happen, and she sort of would just I said, how do you not just like break his brittle bones? And she was like, well, the first thing is that I am used to men thinking they can say whatever to me because they view me as just property. They can just comment on me, like where someone like me is like, oh, nobody's commenting. It's like, I'm not here. So she's like, I'm almost desensitized to it now. Like I can't even hear how disrespectful it is because I'm used to it. And I was just like, that is a horrible thing to have to get used to. That's terrible. So I did her the favor of being in the room every day, and he didn't want to come in there anymore because he couldn't say what he wanted to her because I'm there, I'm taking up her time, so he can't just come in and say that she's like his Sally Hemings or whatever he was saying was horrible.
Her. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely like have seen it both ways, and I don't take somebody wrote me and they were like, I wrote a blog about this and how it can be the other way, and I want you to read it. And I was like, I read it. I am happy that you are telling your story. Make a video if you need to. Like,
but I have to be fair. I think the other way has been told. It's Me Too movement. There's so many movements, but this way has never been done. So I just want to throw that out there. This way, I don't feel like it's ever been done really at all. So just something to think about. Also, how can we make women, which I don't feel like we can make women do anything, but how can we get women to support each other like you just did universally? Like basically you brought this live to life. How can we make every woman act on code? We can't make women do anything. And do you believe such a thing is even possible?
No, you're right. You can't make every woman act on code. You can't make people do anything they don't want to do. You can't isolate voices that don't fit the plan, though. You know what I mean? Like, so you establish, like, okay, this is how we're going to communicate. You know, very much in the ways that, you know, networks. Let me just take it back to 2020 when people started highlighting, like, okay, well, part of, you know, the way that Black voices have been silenced when it comes to the media is look at all these cartoons, Black cartoons that are voiced by white actors. Why is that? And so networks were like, oh, this is a plan now. Fire them, bring in Black actors. This is what we're doing. If you don't agree, you won't get hired. Sorry about it. So I think it's the same way with any story that a woman has to tell. You can't make anybody do anything. You can't make anybody follow along. But what you can do is say, oh, well, if that's where you're coming from, you don't have a seat here. Right. This is kind of our lane that we're going to be in. And if that's where you're coming from, we won't be able to validate your voice here. And it's not out of malice. It's not out of contempt. It's about the fact that you're still choosing to not be empathetic, to not be compassionate, to be ignorant. So say what you want, but not here.
Right.
So yeah, you can't make anybody do anything, but you can choose to block out people that are not agreeing to a new agenda. You absolutely can do that.
And I feel like listening, you know, and not projecting. Like an example would be like me saying, you know, when it comes to pretty girl privilege, sexual abuse is like a really big deal, but it doesn't automatically denounce that a non-attractive woman cannot be sexually abused or sexually violated. You know, that let's not make that assumption. We're strictly speaking on my experiences and the things that I have dealt with and I've gone through, but it doesn't mean a woman that is less attractive isn't going through something similar. It just means this is my experience. This is what I've dealt with. What's yours? And just have that understanding and listening ear, not responding so quick to where you're projecting your own experiences onto theirs and not listening or taking in what they're saying. Just respect, you know, I think it really just comes down to that, but also understanding that not everyone is going to care. I hate to say it. Like I've been around women that just don't care because they benefit. They have the privilege and they're self-centered, they're selfish, and they don't consider how it may affect others in a negative way. It may impact others in a negative way. So I think it just comes down to respect, sympathy, looking out for others, because at the core, you know, we are women. We are women. So yeah. I want to say the last question is, how do you feel about women buying pretty girl privilege? Do you feel modern women have it or just buy it?
Again, it comes down to who's defining what the privilege is. So if you're talking about, and if you're talking about people, it depends on who's defining what the privilege is. That is based on different cultures. If I don't think that buying something automatically is going to qualify you for another type of treatment. And I'll just talk about songs that we may have grown up with as millennials. You know, it must be because it's not your face. I need you for this. So I think sometimes we can invest in certain parts of ourselves that increase our value in one place, but it doesn't mean we'll be valued in another place, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And as far as some of the things people do, like lip fillers and all that, I can't honestly say that it makes people look better, you know, without being mean. I really do think sometimes it's just a fad, but I don't know who you're trying to impress. So I don't know if I would call that pretty girl privilege. I would call it maybe more like social privilege. Like, I don't know, which is a thing, which is kind of the same. Okay, sorry.
An example would be like a lot of these female artists today, either rappers, singers, whatever. Like Ari Lennox, for an example, she refuses to get any work done to her body, which I respect so much. People have told her that she should get some type of work done, like a boob job or something like that, to basically buy privilege, because beauty is seen as, it's our capital as, as women. That's how we capitalize. And so, women have the pressure to just go in, just buy it. Like, buy it.
I would argue, though, that I don't. So for me, the type of things they would want her to do on her body would not give her pretty girl privilege. They would make her more visually, they would give her a certain libidinal edge in certain communities.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that is she changing her, because I look at someone like, I don't know, I hate to bring her up because I brought her up in my video, but I will. Someone like a Lori Harvey, right? No one is telling her to add anything.
Nope.
Correct?
Nope.
That to me, that's pretty girl privilege. Like, it's your, like, it to me, it deals with your features that are on your face. Is it, I think of like a supermodel like Ashley Graham. She's just, you look at her and you're like, oh, that person is beautiful. I think there's a difference between adding to like your butt or your, your body, because, and this is something I've struggled with. This is something I've struggled with in my life, because I have always had a big butt, always. But I felt like I was only sexualized and I wasn't valued. Whereas my friends who can walk in the door all buttoned up in their coat and people are just like, oh, they're more valued. They got a different type of attention. Whereas I got very sexual attention. Like, I want to do this with your body. It wasn't like, I want to put you up on a pedestal and I want to offer you this and a home and bring you on my arm. It was, I want you for sexual purposes.
Right.
And so, and then when I think about the type of media communities that Ari Lennox is important in, she's great for sticking to for being organically her. Because at the end of the day, that is not, to me, that's
because like an artist, for an example, like Asian Doll, she did get her boobs done. She fell into that pressure of getting her boobs done to get that, privilege of making more sales compared to Beyonce, who really didn't have to get any work done in the beginning of her career to make music, and to sell music and to be able to sell music. So some women feel like they could buy the privilege by getting certain things done to their body to be able to get certain opportunities.
Well, I hate to bring her up too, but somebody that really went through a whole makeover, and it really did help her be accepted as a pretty woman, someone like a Kylie Jenner, right?
Right.
She did buy. She did go ahead and buy it. And so in that case, yeah, you can buy it. You can buy it. To me, what I think about, just adding to the body. But if you want to make, you absolutely can. You can change how people, you could do that. And if that's something that you want to do, if you're in that position and that's where you want to go, fine. I'm like you. I really, really appreciate someone like Ari Lennox, who is like, oh no. Because I've seen, I follow her on Instagram. Like, do I follow her on Instagram? Well, I see her content and I'm just like, she's beautiful. Like, nothing is wrong. She's beautiful. And so I think that that's like a righteous indignation. Like, no, I refuse. This was fine the way it was created. And I think her voice is so important and her stance is so important. Yeah. So no, you're right. You can buy it. It does happen. Yep. But every woman will have to decide for herself whether or not that's an investment she wants to make. And everybody doesn't want the same type of attention too. So that's also,
Well, that is the end. We do have questions. So I have Stephanie Love here. She said, is it pretty girl privilege if you're only trying to impress Black men?
No, because I date interracially. And one of the things, especially when you're in LA, like, I was not one of those people who was like, oh, I only want, but when we would go out, like I said, my friend, my tall, beautiful, dark skinned, thin friend would walk in and every white dude you could tell had money, was like, who is that? What? Whereas no one, so I think pretty privilege. And again, I came up with the idea to even make that video because I was reading about it in articles where women of all races were sharing their experiences. So it's something that affects women in general, and not even just, you can even take it away from pretty privilege. That's why the video I uploaded last night, I was talking about just desirability politics in general, just things that are deemed to make you more desirable. And that plays into every race and every culture. So no, I don't think it just applies to Black men at all. It does if you're only limiting yourself there, because that's another thing. People are like, oh, well, have you ever tried dating out of your race? My experience is not necessarily going to be your experience. Like, for instance, I notice a lot of athletes, like they'll meet other I'm sorry, but a lot of the athletes that did the sport that I did, which was cheer, they were gay men. So that wasn't something I could do. But I noticed a lot of athletes will be like, oh, I met him when we were doing this. So my experience dating interracially doesn't necessarily have to be your experience. But yeah, it's definitely only for Black men if that's what you limit yourself to. I didn't. But I can see it being that limiting.
Okay. And we have one more question. Men are visual creatures, but looks don't make him stay. You have to, I guess it's not a question. You have to have self-respect and confidence and never be afraid to walk away. Never sacrifice your happiness for a man. Wow, I would love to end the live on that note. Yes, I agree with that, 100%.
That I've said that a lot in my videos. I have been in some interesting situations where I've kind of looked around, and one of my videos I was like, this is not how did I get here? I'm not doing this. I'm gonna leave. And I have seen women who were in my position. They've been single for a long time. They were very desperate. They just, please, I'll just deal with it. I've watched them deteriorate. And I don't have it in me to deteriorate. Even when I tried, I'm not going to go into those stories, but let's just say, like, I don't talk to none of them people no more. They're afraid to speak to me because I erupt. I don't have it in me to just stay just to say, oh, I'm with somebody, so that means I'm whole. Like, no. I protect this. I protect my space, unless it's me deciding to put all my business on the internet. And someone could argue that's not protecting your space, but okay, they have a point. But yeah, no, I'm not just going to stay for, no, I agree with that person. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on here
no problem.
with me. I really enjoyed you tonight, and just a lot of your responses, and just to feel your energy, and you're lights. You really are light.
Thank you for having me. I was so nervous. I was like, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to stutter? But you were so nice and professional. Have to go back to the teacher in me was like, look at all these resources and study guides. So I had my little sheet up to take my notes. So thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you enjoy the rest of your night. You guys, make sure you check out her YouTube channel. I will have links in my description box, and subscribe. Also,
and remember, my content is still growing. So
yes, I'm excited to get more.
It's still so new. This was all a surprise because I did not expect this. So I'm still very new. So yes.
So definitely subscribe to her channel, and share her content, you guys. Share it with a friend, someone.
Thank you.
So it was nice meeting with you, and hopefully we could do this again sometime.
Maybe. It was good. I felt like it was good. I felt like we had a good conversation. You let me know, and I never know what crazy thing I might decide to put out. So maybe something like this could happen again. We never know, and we'll have to sit down and discuss it. We will. Yes. All right. Thank you.
You have a nice night. Bye-bye. See, you guys, that was not bad at all. I'm definitely saving this live. I really enjoyed tonight's conversation, and I'm so happy that she was able to come on and speak with us tonight. And hopefully you guys got a lot of the questions that you had for her answered. The only thing that I ask is that you guys give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you are wanting me to do more interviews like this, let me know. But also send me content creators that you would like to see me work with, or who you would like to see me work with. Thank you, lady. Is it Letty? Thank you. Yes, like the video. Like the video. But on that note, I'm going to say bye, guys, because, I'm trying to, I told you I was outside, okay? I'm outside. So you guys enjoy the rest of your night, and you guys will see me on YouTube either Friday or Saturday. Bye, guys.